Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered among the four corners of the earth, among the heathen nations that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, and to the Akwaf that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this is a video that I actually wanted to do like 3-4 days ago. Salakia, traveling about, you know, and trying to entertain and with brothers, and you know, a lot of stuff was on my plate these last couple days, so I hadn't been able to really sit down and get the lessons in like I wanted to. My personal lessons, that is. There are plenty of lessons with other brothers and that whole sort of thing. So Salakia, but back on it. And but this is one I've wanted to do for a while, this particular video, because in this video, you know, let me just open with a scripture. Let me grab Habakkuk 2:16, and it reads, "Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered, that the cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory." And the shame, and I'm probably going to read this scripture again before this lesson is over, but the shameful spewing is upon the glory and the pride of Esau Edom, who is the so-called white man. This video alone is just going to basically tell them themselves how they're unfit to rule, how they're crooked, how they bend and twist the laws in favor, and then how they will kill to silence people and get rid of people to cover up their lies. Because you have to understand, their glory is all built upon falsehoods, pseudoscience, false history, newspeak, meaning the changing of words and changing of meanings of words. And they have been very proud in this false position of leadership with the lie IQ. And but now it's an they're an embarrassment to themselves and to the world. All right, and a lot of men's fate now lie in the hands of this woman that's on the screen. All right, because there are a lot of people in high places that were connected to this once couple who became business partners. I believe he still was having relations with her, as they were continually setting up, raping, and sacrificing young girls, mostly Edomite girls. And let me read the scripture, man, because hey, look, in the Bible, the penalty for rape, you know, against a woman who resists you, not that accepts you, but resists you, you know, because the biblical law about rape is really clear. All right, if you take a woman and she doesn't resist, you now have to pay the dowry to her family, and you have to support and take care of that woman for the rest of her life. See, and if that was the case today, you probably wouldn't have a lot of men that would go on into women as much as they did, because you'd be stuck with her. All right, you'd have to take care of her, which is a fate worse than death in some cases. You know, a fate worse than prison. Sometimes, you know, and I'm not saying that about all women, but some women, being with them is like a prison sentence. All right, and hey, that's in the scriptures, man. You know, it's that scripture that talks about it's better to dwell in the corner or dwell with the dragon than to dwell with particular women. And I'm not talking about all women, but the ones who are, hey, look, if the shoe fits, wear it. But if a woman is taken sexually and she resisted you, she cried out, then the sentence for that is death. Not locked up to be a free labor servant. See, these Edomites, they swear in on the Bible. They hold the Bibles in their courtrooms, but then they toss the Bible behind them and don't judge people according to it. And I just have to, and the Bible gives you the perfect blueprint on how to govern a society. You know, it gives you and if the blueprint of the Bible is followed, societies would actually there'd be a lot more peace and a lot less crime and a lot less issues if people received the punishments that were written in the Bible. But since they don't, that's another reason why people don't fear the Lord or his wrath or his word. But this is let me go to just give you an example. trying to think of something. This is Deuteronomy. Off subject, but not really, but this is Deuteronomy, the 19th chapter, and I'm gonna start at the 11th verse, just to give you an example of what I'm trying to say. It says, "But if any man hate his neighbor, and lie in wait for him, and rise up against him," and that could be in the form of a rape, or okay, or if you kill them, all right, "and smite him mortally, that he die, and he fleeth into one of these cities." We have sanctuary cities, which if you harm someone accidentally, unintentionally, that you could go to be safe. And so everyone in that city was a victim of that same thing. All right, because the Bible made it clear that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If you kill my brother, or if you knock my brother, my son's, my daughter, my wife's teeth out of her mouth, then I have the right to knock your teeth out of your mouth. But if that was an accident, it still happened, and I could be that avenger of blood and want to still do it. But if it was unintentional and it was an accident, and that could be proven, the judges had sanctuary cities for you. That's what this is talking about, okay? And it says in verse 12, "Then the elders of the cities," but this is talking about someone. All right, let me read it again. Verse 11. "But if any man hate his neighbor, and lie in wait for him, and rise up against him, and smite him mortally, that he dieth, and fleeth into one of these cities, then the elders of the city shall send and fetch him thence, and deliver him into the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die." Jeffrey Epstein was supposed to die for raping all those young girls. That was especially the ones who spoke up and who were against it and pleaded, and because they were duped and tricked into it by this wicked woman, the Shedamite, all right, the she-devil that was in cohorts with him. So without any further ado, let's let some of this video play and watch the shameful. Watch it, and Tucker, with his lie IQ, is reporting this. But what he's really doing is he's spewing shame upon himself, his people, and his nation that he upholds so much. Let's let it play.
Jeffrey Epstein's consigliere, reputedly his pimp, has been arrested and charged with a number of crimes, including sex trafficking. Her name apparently is pronounced Ghislaine Maxwell, spelled Ghislaine. You know who she is. According to one of Epstein's victims who spoke with Fox, Maxwell is just as bad as the billionaire she once served.
She is a rapist.
Yeah, and I'm sure when she says she's a rapist, she participated in some of these acts too. Especially when she was not the pimp or the or his assistant, when she was actually his girlfriend. I'm sure that they group sexed some of these young, drugged up, helpless, I won't say completely helpless, but some of these victims of their of the entrapments that they put some of these young girls in. All right, I'm sure she participated in the ungodly, unorthodox, unacceptable acts of sex, because sex is between a man and a woman, not a man and two women, or two men and a woman. That's all wickedness, man. Those are those unnatural sexual acts. Okay. The word that I'm looking for, which is leaving me right now. I can't believe I can't think of the word right now, because they use it all the time incorrectly, but it'll come to me. But anyway, let it play.
What was supposed to be the best years of my life. She is just as evil as Jeffrey Epstein, as everybody has painted him to be. Miss Maxwell was his business partner in this. She did this to many girls. It was a hateful and degrading rape, and I was dumped off in my grandparents' yard naked.
Hateful and degrading rape. Because what? They were group sexing these girls, running trains on them and passing them around. So how do you think her grandmother or her grandfather felt about this? See, if this was the ancient world, they could have demanded the blood of everyone that was involved, which is what I'm trying to. And so this is shameful spewing, being spewed right here on Fox. This is what goes on in America. Now you see why the other countries, the other nations, They don't want your democracy, because when democracy comes to a nation, this is what happens.
And was told that I wouldn't come back alive the next time.
Another alleged victim told 60 Minutes Australia, which is excellent.
Well, those unnatural sex acts, that's your fornication, or one of the forms of fornication. Because there could be spiritual fornication too, which is, you know, worshiping false and other gods, or preaching and teaching false doctrines that don't match up precept upon precept. All right, and knew it popping back in my head. I was having a hard time, that word at the time. That was just Satan. But here we go.
By the way, about how Maxwell ensnared young girls.
Snares.
His private sanctuary, an isolated prison known as Pedo Island, where he would share the girls like prey with his rich and powerful friends.
So yeah, so he was sharing the girls with his rich.
We weren't anything important to them at all. We weren't even a human being to them. We were just another toy to be passed around. And
so
that's what they did.
I mean, the hell with these Edomites, but because they did that sort of thing to our women, to our people, even to our men.
Prince Andrew should.
But let me go back, because he's talking about high-level important people. All right.
We weren't anything important.
But let me grab a quick scripture. This is Sirach 11:31, and it says, "For they lieth in wait, and turneth good into evil, and things worthy of praise will they and things worthy of praise will lay blame upon thee." So they lie in wait to trap, you know, innocent young girls, you know, and do these wicked things to them. All right, because there's a scripture that says, "Thou should not make a whore of the daughters of Zion." But you got to remember, when the law, statutes, and commandments are put in place, those law, statutes, and commandments will govern the whole earth. The heathen will also have to abide by these rules. All right, they're going to have to follow the law, statutes, and commandments that will be established once Israel, the real Israelites, go back to the land of the Lord. And anyone that violates them will meet the wrath of the Most High by the judges of the Most High, which will be the 144,000, which are the judges that are going to be here upon the earth. In case anyone, you know, you've heard that number, heard people talk about it, that's exactly who the 144,000 are. That's the new government set up from on high, on heaven. Those are the judges. And then there's a rank and file among them, because the head of those judges is, of course, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, all right, which is Yahweh Shai. And then the second in command under the Lord is going to be King David. All right, this is how we know that Israel has not been set up yet, because Yahweh Shai is ruling over all, and King David is not sitting on the throne, with the rest of the 12 being in that line of of order, being the next heads, and then the rest of the 144,000 and whatever the order that the Lord puts them in. But those will be your judges over the whole earth, that are going to deal with situations like this when they arise, you know. But this is what Esau does. They lie in wait and prey upon the weak, upon the meek, you know, even upon their own people. You know, this is Edomite on Edomite crime being put on display, and how they hid and buried it. And then he's going to talk about Pedo Island. We don't even know how many of them were sacrificed and died, their blood. They haven't opened up what was going on and showed you the records. Why? Because COVID was another thing used to hide this very important information right here, which was revealing the wickedness of Hollywood. All that shit got shut down. All right, and that's why they killed Jeffrey Epstein, which is obvious that he did not commit suicide and that he was murdered.
To them at all. We weren't even a human being to them. We were just another toy to be passed around. And that's what they did. Prince Andrew should be panicking at the moment, because Ghislaine doesn't really care about anyone else but Ghislaine.
I was in the car with her, and she would ask the driver to stop the car. And she'd dash across to the school or the park or wherever she was going, and she would like write down her phone number for a child, a young girl. And then I'd see that child at the house, and she'd say, they're auditioning. You know, I found them all.
Hey, we've all heard about the casting couch. Now, if you look at the image to the right, you got I'm going to put the arrow. If you can follow the arrow, you got this old perv with this little girl. It's probably not his granddaughter or his niece or his daughter. All right? So, you know, all that Pedo Island, Pizzagate, all that stuff was real. And you know, reality is stranger than fiction. And what did they do? They create stories to try to doctor it up to say that, you know, it was all false information. But the truth be said, it turns out that a lot of this stuff is true and the evidence is there. They just try to sweep everything under the rug. All right? And one of the ways that you can clearly see that they were in fear of what would come out of this was the death of Jeffrey Epstein. All right? Who should have died a lot more painfully than what he did. You know, but you know, it is what it is. Let's try. Let me grab this scripture real quick. This is Proverbs 1:11. All right, and this is what I'm, you know, come to mind when she said the lady would get out the car and dash across and grab another girl and get exchange numbers and get the information, and then she see that little girl at the parties later. All right, if they say come with us, let us wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. All right, without cause. You know, now granted, you know, the Lord allows judgment to fall upon people. They're getting whatever judgment because, you know, you don't know what they did in their former lives, but, you know, they don't make the act, still don't make the act wicked, man. Not wicked. That is what I meant to say. That still doesn't make the act not wicked. All right, for grown people to be preying on you know, on young adults, young children, you know, and for a woman to be, you know, the one who actually sets it all up. She's supposed to be teaching and nurturing the young girls, to teach them how to be wifely, you know, to be righteous, and what she's teaching them how to ride the cock carousel, or in this case, how to get rolled by the cock carousel. All right. I mean, that's a whole nother level of wickedness. It's one, you know, thing for the woman to just jump penis to penis on her own, but then to take a woman and force her to be ridden by penis after penis after penis, that's a whole nother level of wickedness, man. You didn't even give her the choice to be wicked on her own.
Well, in the park, and I thought it was really strange because I did see a couple girls in braces, and I've never seen a model with braces.
Well, that's disgusting. So Maxwell has now been arrested, but then, of course, Jeffrey Epstein.
And yeah, and that's disgusting. And you know what? I bet you this devil has participated in some of these sort of things himself. All right? What a hypocrite. But
was arrested too. So how confident can the rest of us be that Maxwell will reveal what actually happened on Pedo Island and other places? Who was involved? Who paid for it? Were there foreign governments? How confident can we be that she will make it to a courtroom? Ed Gavin is a retired deputy warden for the New York City Department of Correction. The man to answer that question, he joins us tonight.
Now he's going to give you an inside look on how corrupt the penal system is, dealing with inmates, and women in particular in this case.
Ed, thanks so much for coming on. Are you concerned that Maxwell won't make it to court?
I think there are some issues that we have to contend with. When you think about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein, he supposedly committed suicide in prison. I don't think so. Dr. Michael Bodden, a renowned pathologist, examined Jeffrey Epstein, and he determined.
And it's funny, Dr. Bodden said that his wounds, where he's going to tell you, were in concordance with one who had blunt, you know, trauma force on the, you know, on the throat area, the trachea, etc., and not with the suicide. But it's funny how they love to run to experts, except for when the experts go against their narrative. All of a sudden, this person with all these high credentials, you know, and all these pedigrees, degrees and pedigrees in their form of learning, all of a sudden they don't know what they're talking about. Like the army of doctors and medical personnel who have come against the whole COVID thing, and that COVID, you know, is not what they're saying it is. All right, and then the danger of the mask, and they're trying to push the mask when people are getting sick and passing out and getting sicker, and their immune system is being destroyed by the mask, but yet they're pushing to make everyone wear the mask, knowing that it's going to make people more prone to sickness and that whole sort of thing. All right, so they use experts when it's to their benefit.
Determined that the hyoid bone was fractured, and that's more consistent with homicide by strangulation instead of suicide by hanging. And of course, the cameras conveniently weren't working there. I don't think the feds can handle these prisoners.
So when all this happens, the cameras, so you got them. It's just, look, it's funny how Esau drops the balls on some of the most important things in society that can shine a light on them. You know, like the evidence of the moon landing. You know, the tapes. Right, so that they can, because the rumors in different movies and cartoons and over the decades about how it was done in you know, in the studios, you know, what's his name, Stanley Kubrick, if I said his name right, was hinting how it was done and that he was the one who shot the footage, etc., etc. But the most important, one of the most important events that took place in the last century, they would have cherished it, taken care of it, and put it on full display. But they put it on a VHS tape, supposedly, or whatever, and let the tape get accidentally taped over by something else. All right, so now they can't produce the proof, but they keep saying that it happened, even though scientific evidence has been dropped over and over again by their own mouths. All right, about the what do you call it, the radiation levels in the Van Allen belt, how they sent insects and animals into the atmosphere to test the radiation, and they'll tell you had nothing living, no human being could pass through the Van Allen belt. But guess what? You got to go through the Van Allen belt to get to the moon. So nothing ever adds up with these people. Let's run it back just a little bit more.
Such high-profile prisoners like Maxwell or Epstein. If I were William Barr with homicide by strangulation instead of suicide by hanging, and of course the cameras conveniently weren't working there, I don't think the feds can handle these prisoners, such high-profile prisoners like Maxwell or Epstein. If I were William Barr, what I would do is I would seek to obtain a substitute jail order, and I would try to have Miss Maxwell placed on Rikers Island with the New York City Department of Correction. I mean, the jails are empty right now because de Blasio has police reform and Cuomo has bail reform, so everybody's out in the street. So there's plenty of room at the inn on Rikers.
And so that's exactly what they're doing. You know, that's another thing. They're emptying out the jails, letting inmates out, and they're going to replace them with you people who don't want to wear the mask. Real talk. That's in the, you know, Yahweh Ratazah. That will be talked about in the next video to come up. But nevertheless, as you can see, man, shameful spewing is upon their glory, man. They're basically shaming themselves, because these are things. This is what happens when you try to rule over society minus the Bible. And all these people with these bald faces and these lie IQs completely are showing you that they're imbeciles and they're in no position to be leaders among men. They're not.
And then we have an emergency services unit that could handle her. And I think that's the best thing that could happen. And the reason I say that is because the jail that she's currently in, the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, is notorious for the sexual abuse of female inmates. And let me give you a couple of examples. In 2011, there was a female correction officer there. She had sex on duty with eight employees. 2 of them were superior officers.
Wow.
She also had sex with 2 inmates. One was a gangbanger and a drug dealer, and the other one killed 2 New York City police detectives.
So there you go, man. So here you got this correction officer, this female, all right, being a complete harlot. She's banging her 6 of her co-workers and 2 inmates. Or did he say 8 of her co-workers and 2 inmates? And 2 of those inmates were cop killers, so to, you know, drug dealers and cop killers, man. So and look, you know, let me grab this scripture, man. This is Proverbs, because this is what democracy in America, you know, subscribes and pushes. You go, girl. If she's wiping the semen of the off her mouth of her lover as she goes before she turns the key to go into the lock to her husband. All right. This is Proverbs 30 and 20. All right. Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. And that's basically, in a nutshell, America, Esau, Edom, which America is referred to as the Babylon. And we're talking about the whore that rode the dragon, man. So this place is just full of immorality and needs to be destroyed. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Abishai by Hashem Rakakwadash Wa Abba Babal Shalom.